Uh, Good morning, delegates to the summit. Thank you to our program director, Wendy Knowles. I often say the day Wendy rings the bell at your front door, or when she knocks on the front door, you better run, and you better run very, very fast. And I think that says a lot about not only the credibility of people like Wendy that we need, and we need many of them more in the media fraternity, but we have to hold people that are involved in wrongdoing to account, Wendy. So I salute you for the great work that you've done over the many years and continue to do. Let me also say thank you to the Southern African Fraud Prevention Service and to the Insurance Crime Bureau for the opportunity to come and not preach to you, not to come and lecture to you, but simply to come and talk and to share a few ideas. The organizers gave me a long brief. They wanted me to talk about biometrics and some of the technical issues, and I'm not going to bore you with all the technical elements because I'm no expert on that. So Mani said to me, talk about all the issues that are relevant, that are affecting South Africans, and please feel free to touch on some of the current issues as well. Having said that, what I'm going to say to you delegates today, you probably heard before. It's good sometimes to keep on repeating because I think it drives home the point that we have a serious problem. Crime in South Africa, unfortunately, has become a national sport. When I say it's become a national sport, I mean it's become a way of life. How many of you, how many of your friends, how many of your relatives have not been affected by crime? So what you're going to hear today is going to be nothing new, but I think it needs to drive home the point that we all need to join together. You know, Wendy, it reminds me of the story of this old man, and I often like to share the story when I start talking, who went to the union buildings. The old man was about 82 years old, and he asked the cop on duty there, the sergeant, he said, "Sergeant, I'm looking for Jacob Zuma." And the cop said, "Sir, Jacob Zuma is no longer president of South Africa." The old man kept quiet, he turned around, he walked away. Day two, the old man came back. "I'm looking for Jacob Zuma, officer." And the cop says, "Jacob Zuma is no longer president." And it continued for 4 weeks, every day. In sunshine, in rain, the old man will come back and he keeps on asking for Jacob Zuma, and the cop says, "Jacob Zuma is no longer president." And on this Monday, when the old man came back, he asked again, he said, "Sergeant, I'm looking for Jacob Zuma." And he said, "Jacob Zuma is no longer president." And now the cop was hurtful. And before the old man walked away, he said, "Sir, hang on. It's now 4 weeks, every day, you come here, you ask for Jacob Zuma, and I keep on telling you Jacob Zuma is no longer president. What's the problem? Why do you keep on coming back and asking for the same thing, and I keep on telling you the same thing?" And the old man looks the cop in the eye, and he says to him, "Sergeant, every time you say Jacob Zuma is no longer president, I love it." That shows you, delegates, the power of repetition. And marketers will tell you, they keep on repeating because we need to drive home the point that we need to make. When I talk about crime becoming a national sport, so whether we talk of murder, whether we talk of hijackings, whether we talk of rape, whether we talk of gender-based violence, whether we talk of smash and grabs, it's become a way of life. As I drove here, 4 people were killed in an open field just down the road in Sunspread in Honeydew, in an apparent attack, a mob justice attack. Why mob justice? Why jungle justice? Because people are fed up with the criminal justice system. Many of them have lost faith in the law enforcement agencies. They've lost faith in the South African Police Service, and they really have become tired, because how often don't you hear from people, and you are experts in this field, that go to a local police station, the cop behind the counter will simply ignore you. We've seen viral videos where people went to report rapes and other crimes, and the cops sit behind the counter, and they either asleep or they're falling asleep, and people get turned away. So when it comes to violent crime, we have a problem. But let's not forget, Mani just indicated the incidence of fraud, of scams that are operating. White collar crime, whether it's in the form of a guy sitting in up in northern Africa or in any other part of the world, sitting behind a laptop or a computer and making thousands and thousands of rands, or whether it is a guy who's just down the road in a backyard or in a room scamming you. White collar crime has become a major problem. Wendy just said to me inside, she's got email after email about people that are scamming and people that are running scams. I'm sure most of you have continued to receive a message from purportedly a Coca-Cola company that you've won a competition that you never entered and you won a few $1 million, or you won the lottery. Or how often would you not get a call to say, press on this link and go to this website, even using the name of credible banks like FNB, they're using the logo, they're copying it, they use the same links similar to that. All they want to do is to try to access your bank accounts, try to access your information, and go and rob you of your hard-earned cash. We need to become very vigilant. We need to become very alert. Criminals are trying always to be one step ahead. I'm currently recording a program for Crime Watch on ENCA about ID theft fraud. A few months ago, I heard Wendy talking about it on 702 and how prevalent and how common the issue of ID theft fraud has become. So somebody takes your ID book, they put your photograph on there, they go and open an account at a retail outlet or a mobile service, and they run up the accounts, and you have to sit with the debt and running to the fraud prevention service and to other organizations to try to help you to clear your name because you get blacklisted. But these criminals, aside from the normal scams that we're having, and aside from the 419 scams, are trying their luck at every turn. And let me give you one or two quick examples. So your car gets stolen, and or your car gets hijacked. You go to the local police station and you report that your vehicle has been stolen. Probably with corrupt cops, these criminals get your information. So they know that when this car has been stolen, this is the make of the car, this is where it was stolen from, and within hours or the next day, you'll get a call purportedly from a cop. I'm Constable so-and-so from this police station, this is your case number, and they'll give you the correct case number. Your car was stolen yesterday, correct? Yes, the good news is we've recovered your car. It's sitting in Messina or it's sitting in Komatipoort, it's in a pound. Good news is you can get your car back, but you know what? You have to pay 5,000 Rand. You then e-wallet the money or you transfer it into an account only to find out it's a scam. This thing has become so common and people are conned each and every day, despite warnings to say, don't fall for these scams. But the worrying part, delegates, is that we know corrupt cops are providing the information to these syndicates. Another scam which is very, very popular these days is that you'll get a call from a cop. I'm so-and-so from the Beerda Bridge police station, for example. Are you so-and-so? Is this your ID number? Yes. Sir, can you please come and report to the police station? We got a charge against you. Well, what's the charge? A charge of rape. And you know you never committed a rape. But people get so scared and the cop says to you, but you know what? I'll make a plan. I can help you. You know what? It's going to be embarrassing when we come to your house to come and lock you up in front of your wife and your children. You have to go to court. But you know what? I can give the prosecutor something, will make the docket disappear. Transfer 5,000 Rand or 10,000 Rand into the account. The other day, somebody called me and he was so scared and he knew he didn't rape anyone. He was forced to pay 20,000 Rand only to find out it was a scam. And these things are happening by the day. We've had incidents where, for example, people in massage parlors and people in escort agencies, women, are working with the syndicate. So when you go and you hire their services, they give you a phone number and they give your details to these syndicates. And they say to you that this is the particular woman that you went with, and she claims that you raped her and she opened a charge. So scams have become so popular that we need to be very, very, very careful. Social media, on the other hand, has also become a major problem. Whether you're on Instagram, whether you're on Twitter, whether you're on Facebook, these criminals will lure you. The other day, I had a 14-year-old youngster who was on Instagram A young pretty girl from Cape Town befriended him. They started chatting, blah, blah, blah. The next minute, she starts sending him a direct message to say, "You're very cute, let's chat." Then she says to him, "Let's talk on WhatsApp." And the two of them talk for a day on WhatsApp. And then she says to him, "You know what, this is my picture. I think you're a lovely young man. Can we go on a date? But do me a favor, send me a picture of you." The young 14-year-old sends a picture, and she says to him, "But send me a picture of you in the nude." The 14-year-old boy sends a picture of him in the nude. The next thing is, the guy phones the WhatsApp number and he says, "We've got your picture. We are now going to viral this picture all over the internet, provided you pay us 2,500 rand. What does a 14-year-old youngster do? He's scared. He runs to his mom. He says, "Mom, can I borrow 2,500 rand?" And he pays the guy through e-wallet. The guy then comes back and says, "You know what? I need another 5,000 rand." Until eventually he ran out of money. And when we looked at it, clearly it was a scam. And they are really conning people. I can go on and on and on about the creative ways that these criminals are using and trying to use to make a quick buck. Now, we know when you go to a local police station and you either want to report an ID theft fraud or one of these scams, I'm sorry to say to you, 8 out of 10 times that cop is too lazy to take your statement, and he's going to say, "You know what, there's nothing we can do." And we know there are thousands and thousands of dockets of these scams, and the cops do absolutely nothing. I'm not having a go at the police service. I often say we credit the good work that the police often do, but we spit on those that treat our communities with disrespect. And when you get bad service at the police station, please do not leave it there. Take it and escalate it to the station commander, to the district commissioner, to the provincial commissioner, or even to the national commissioner of police if the need be. We need to hold the police to account. And we must make sure that they continue to deliver on their mandate. And even, for example, if you have a case where you've been defrauded of millions of rands and the police do not act, make sure you escalate it and make sure that you take it to the highest authority within that particular law enforcement agency to make sure that they held to account. Now, when I met Mani and the team last week, they explained to me the importance of biometrics, and I know that is one of the issues that we are covering in the summit today. There is no doubt, ladies and gentlemen, delegates, we have to use technology in the fight against crime. So whether we're using drones, and the other night I went to join Val Bartman, the CEO of Fidelity, they've launched a massive campaign using drones costing about R1 million to fly and to patrol residential complexes, commercial complexes with night vision technology to try to track down criminals. They even have a small fixed-wing aircraft that sells for about 1.2 million rand that's going to be deployed in some of the hotspots, including the rural areas. Technology is the way forward. So whether we're talking of the Namola panic button, which you press and it gives you a location and immediately your local security company gets alerted, or whether it's a drone, technology has become the future. So in my view, biometrics, for example, using your smartphone, either with your fingerprint or your face recognition, is the way to go. We need to use it. Take VumaCam, for example, that's very popular, especially in Gauteng, where they have vehicle recognition. And I know the South African, the Insurance Crime Bureau works very closely with the LPR system. We need to use technology to our advantage. And the other day, I was happy that the Minister of Transport, Fikile Mbalula, announced that metro cops, for example, or traffic cops are now going to get body cams. I've been punting that for years because we know you get stopped by a traffic cop, you committed an offense or you didn't commit an offense, he wants a can of Coke or he wants a lunch, and you're forced to give him something. And hopefully through the body cams, which is being used extensively in the United States, in the UK, in Australia, and other parts of the world, it can bring down the incidence of bribery and corruption to a large extent. So we need to use technology to our advantage. I'm also, over many years, Wendy mentioned, I was a founder of the Crime Line Initiative, for the anonymous SMS service that John Robbie mooted many, many years ago on radio. And we were the first country in the world at the time to launch a text service that was anonymous for crime tip-offs. I'm vice president of the international body called Crime Stoppers International, and thanks to anonymous tip-offs from the public, we're able to arrest thousands and thousands of criminals in all parts of the world. Just 2 weeks ago, we launched an international fugitives campaign, and if you go on Facebook and you follow Crime Stoppers International or you go on Twitter, you'll be able to see photographs of wanted South Africans who are probably out of the country, involved in millions and millions of rands of fraud, in organized crime, in violent crime, that are on the wanted list and on the Interpol red list that we are looking for. Someone, somewhere, somehow knows who's involved in these crimes. You know, we often find members of the public, members of our community complaining that my neighbor sells drugs. My neighbor buys hijacked cars, my neighbor has a chop shop, my neighbor does this, blah, blah, blah. And we ask them, what do you do about it? And they often say, well, what can I do? The cops are useless, the cops are corrupt. But remember, if we blow the whistle on wrongdoing, if we make it our moral and our civic duty to say, let's blow the whistle on crime, we'll be able to create a safer world. And yes, you know what? Whistleblowers need to be protected. So when you pick up the phone or you go to the My SAPS app or you call Crime Stop on 08600 10111, you can remain anonymous and you can pass on information safely without compromising your safety. And again, remember, please, let's take the message to everyone out there. When you pass on information, no sense saying that drugs are being sold in Church Street, Pretoria. It means nothing to those investigators. You have to give detailed information when you make a tip-off to the police. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. The 5 W's and the H. Provide detailed information. And yes, you know what? We've had many successes through this partnership. And if we continue to blow the whistle on crime, we'll be able to make a difference. I'm often told, Wendy, that, you know, how do you sleep at night with the blood, the bodies, and the bullets? Yes, sadly, blood, bodies, and bullets have become a way of life. Probably every hour I tweet something about a crime incident or about a fraud incident or about a taxi violence or a CIT robbery, and so the madness continues. We have to continue the awareness and we have to continue the education. Sometimes South African corporates are too scared to be associated with the fight against crime, and yet they are losing millions and millions of rands every year. Crime is killing South Africa. Crime is killing our economy. Crime is killing our nation. I often say that the time is long overdue. Aside from the good work that Business Against Crime does, aside from the good work like organizations like the Crime Bureau, the Fraud Prevention Service, SABRIC, and others do, the time is long overdue for the South African corporate world to join hands and to invest money into the future. How do we stop this madness? We cannot simply sit back and, yes, you all have CSI initiatives. The other day I asked many, so if somebody is a victim of an ID theft fraud, how do I report it? And I was quickly educated. You can go onto our website, you can do ABCD, you can register it, you can log on. And I asked them, for example, a particular company, a mobile service provider, are they registered with you guys? And they said no. And I thought to myself, why not? My call to corporate South Africa, to companies big and small, is to support initiatives like the Fraud Prevention Service, the Crime Insurance Bureau, and to really make sure that we take the fight against crime to the next level. Yes, we know we can complain on Twitter, we can complain on Facebook, we can shout through our neighbors' backyards, but if we don't roll up our sleeves and join hands in the fight against crime, we are going to be doomed. And when I say we are doomed, we are in serious trouble. We know the criminal justice system in South Africa works far too slow. You all remember 2010, the World Cup? Thousands of visitors came to South Africa, well organized. During the period of the 2010 World Cup, we had special courts where people involved in wrongdoing were taken over a weekend or late at night into a special court. They were, the hearing continued, they were even sentenced, they were convicted and sentenced. We know that currently the backlogs in our court runs into years. Just to give you one quick example, I was a victim and my family of a house robbery 7 years ago. 7 years ago. Within 48 hours, thanks to good policing, the 2 suspects were arrested. They are still on trial in the Pretoria Regional Court. 7 years later. I went to testify, my wife went to testify, they are still on trial. The one suspect, believe it or not, applied for bail about 3 years into the trial, and he got bail. When he got bail, he came out and he went on a hijacking spree. And he allegedly committed 42 hijackings, including the then Deputy Minister of Correctional Services, and he was rearrested. And he's back in prison awaiting trial on my case, 7 years later. Every time you come, the prosecutor is ill, the magistrate's got COVID, this, that, and the other. We will not be able to fight crime if we don't sort out our courts of law. Yes, some cases go to court very quickly, very effectively, very efficiently. But the waiting list for the backlogs are far too long. You all know about the backlogs at the police forensic laboratories. The Minister of Police went there the other day. We are talking of tens of thousands of cases. In fact, the backlog has now grown. So if you were a victim of a rape, for example, those samples are still lying in that laboratory to be processed. Probably take another 2 or 3 years. How are we going to win the fight against crime if we don't really get our basics right? And that is going to be the big challenge for us as South Africans to see how do we unite to fight crime. I don't want to talk about the politics of policing. The fight between the Minister of Police and the National Commissioner, well reported in the media. Crime intelligence, the head gets suspended, acting heads get appointed, this, that, and the other. And these criminals, delegates, I don't have to tell you, are becoming more and more desperate. We know what happened to Colonel Charles Kinnear in the Western Cape. The gang warfare is continuing. These people will kill to keep themselves out of jail. And that is why our law enforcement agencies really need to get their act together. We know, for example, another crime facing our communities is, for example, the kidnapping of wealthy businessmen, especially of Indian origin, South African Indians, Pakistanis, and other foreigners. Currently, we have 2 business people, wealthy business people, that are still missing. The one, a businessman in Limpopo, in former Louis Trichardt, he was kidnapped 40 days ago, and he's still missing. We know a businessman, a young man, was kidnapped in Benoni just over a month ago as well, and he's still missing. We know in the other kidnappings committed by organized crime syndicates with probably international links, millions of rands of ransom has been paid. So these people will come, some of them probably policemen, rogue cops, rogue members of gangs, rogue metro cops. They'll come there, pull out a gun, kidnap you, and then demand ransom, sometimes running into 20-25 million rand. And sometimes the families are forced to pay because your life is more important. We need international bodies to get together and fight this criminal scourge. Having said that, I'm often asked, what can an ordinary member of the public do, me as Joe citizen, to help fight crime? So if you're living in a suburb or a township and you're affected by crime, I often say to the communities, do not keep quiet. The National Development Plan of the South African government, go to chapter 11, you'll read about safety and security. I don't know why on earth the South African government hasn't brought the National Development Plan, especially the issue around policing, into life, into fruition. The National Development Plan, chapter 11, talks about crime and policing and safety. One of the recommendations is the appointment of an advisory board that can advise the Minister of Police. Years later, the Minister of Police does not have this advisory board. Imagine if we had people like organizations like the the Fraud Prevention Service, the Insurance Bureau, the CIT industry, experts, ordinary people sitting on this board and advising the Minister of Police. It will really make a difference. Another important recommendation in the National Development Plan is the appointment of a national commissioner. The process that needs to be followed. Up to today, it hasn't come to life. So my appeal to the government is bring the National Development Plan, especially Chapter 11 relating to policing, into reality. It will really make a difference. So I'm Joseph, I'm a member of the public, I get bad service. I often say to the people, do not phone Yusuf Abramjee, do not phone Wendy Knowles, do not phone other people, it's not going to help. The first thing that you need to do is go to the police station, you're getting bad service, ask for the detective commander or the station commander. If he or she can't help you, you escalate it to the district commissioner of police in that area. If that can't help, you go and you write to the provincial police commissioner in your province. If that still fails, you write to the national commissioner or the minister of police. And if that even fails, remember you've got organizations like IPID, the Independent Police Investigations Directorate, and hopefully they'll be able to investigate your case, especially around police brutality and abuse of powers by the South African Police Service and the Metro Police for that matter. Secondly, please get onto your community WhatsApp group, your neighborhood watch groups. Get involved, see and look at the crime trends in your area. The other day, somebody said to me, look at this post in Centurion, where people are walking and the cell phone snatchers come and they grab your cell phone, run into your car, which is another issue I'm sure some of the speakers will cover today, is what do you do if you're walking down the street or you're jogging and they snatch your cell phone and all your biometrics and details on there? How do you stop it? How do you block your phone, etc.? Those are some of the issues which I'm sure will be covered on the practical elements that members of the public need to do to fight the scourge. Support your local community police forum. There are some very good community police forums and there are some bad community police forums. Please get involved, hold them to account, support the good ones, and make sure that we take this fight against crime to the next level. I aired a program the other day around farm attacks, rural safety. We know the figures have gone up. I just come back from Cape Town, where next week we are showing a two-part series on gang warfare in the Western Cape. If you go to the Cape Flats, whether you go to Mitchell's Plain, Heidelveld, whether you go to Menenberg or whether you go to Delft, young people are being killed, caught up in the crossfire. These gangsters are fighting for territory, for drugs, for firearms, and so on. We know that the South African National Defence Force was deployed for a while. They were pulled back. The anti-gang units are there. But the violence is still continuing. How do we restore law and order in communities like those affected by the violence in the Cape Flats? Very topical is the new method that criminals are now using. They are throwing spikes on busy highways and byways, and the minute you drive at night, your tires get spiked. At a kilometer or two down the road, you stop, you try to change your tire, they then come and rob you. On Friday night, just outside Pretoria, we had 8 incidents. And out of the 8 incidents, 3 of the cars that stopped, the victims were all robbed. It's happening on busy highways, the N4 in Pretoria, towards the Donkerhoed toll gate, the N1 towards Rustenburg. Some of the smaller routes are also being affected. And despite police beefing up their patrols along these roads, these criminals are continuing to try their luck. Criminals, as I mentioned, are always going to be trying to be one step ahead. And that is why it's important for us as communities to take this level, to take the fight against crime to the next level. Will we ever see a downsurge or a decline in white-collar crime, in fraud? I think it's going to take a very, very long time. We know with COVID and with the lockdown in March that started towards the end of March last year, we saw a dramatic upsurge in especially online fraud. If you watch Carte Blanche on Sunday, I'm sure, Mandy, you watched this online shopping scam that was being run. People con the consumer or shoppers out of tens of thousands of rands. Eventually, they were tracked down. The one lady in the Eastern Cape, and they never delivered the goods. And yet, that website was so professional. It did all the paying with your credit card, equipment, blah, 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 and half the stuff. In fact, most of the stuff was never delivered. It will look very, very attractive. It will look very, very professional. It will be like an international professional organization. only to be a backyard operation and only to scam you out of that few rand. So we need to educate the public, the consumer, about how creative and how desperate these criminals are becoming. And we need to be very, very careful. I went out to a shopping center in Centurion on Friday evening, and my son quickly alerted me there's a guy standing next to the parking pay point, and he's got a DHL t-shirt on. And he said to me, Daddy, this gentleman said to me he's got 2 brand new Samsung phones that he was supposed to deliver. He's selling it for 7,000 Rand, and it's brand new. I can come and have a look at it. And my son is very alert, and he said, clearly it's either stolen or it's a scam. So what they would do is they prepare it in such a beautiful brand new box, only to be a brick inside. And when you open it after you've paid, instead of getting a Samsung phone, you're probably going to end up with a few rocks or a brick. These are the tricks that these people are using. And that is why we need to be always one step ahead. We need to always make sure that we keep the awareness and the education going. Now, I had the opportunity of speaking to the Insurance Bureau over many, many years. And we all know with the economy the way it is, with people being jobless, insurance scams, they will tell you, is on the increase. So we're finding a lot of fake hijackings, or people that claim that they were hijacked only to find out that the car was dumped or stripped, and they're trying to claim from the insurance company. Insurance companies are losing large sums of money as a result of this scam. So whether your car is stolen, or whether somebody claims that my house was burgled, or we had a house robbery, only to claim from the insurance, it's becoming a major problem. And my advice is, if you are tempted to do something like that, you're going to be getting the orange overall, because sooner or later, the law will catch up with you. And I know the Insurance Bureau is doing some superb work in trying to catch these culprits who are trying to make a quick buck by putting up false claims, and by really trying to make sure that they get a few rand out of the insurance companies. Having said that, and as I come to the conclusion, the point I'm making, ladies and gentlemen, is very important for our corporates to get involved. And my appeal today to every corporate is support initiatives like the Insurance Bureau, like the fraud service, because every rand that you invest will be used in the fight against crime. We cannot say simply that crime has a negative connotation and we don't want to be associated with crime. We have to join hands. We have to make a difference. Yes, Business Against Crime does some superb work. They've got some great initiatives running. And that is why it's important that we fight the scourge. I'll be failing in my duty, Wendy, if I don't mention that I'm very actively involved in the fight against the illicit trade. And I know Chet Thomas, who's a dear friend of mine, who's got a private investigative company, will tell you that over the years, I've made a point of fighting the illicit trade. So whether it's counterfeit goods, whether it's the illegal trade in cigarettes or alcohol or fuel, whatever the case may be, we need to make sure that we hold the government to account, and we need to make sure that we bring these criminals involved in the illicit trade to book. Very quickly, 2 Ipsos research surveys found that the illicit trade in cigarettes specifically has almost doubled over the past year. Long before the ban, it was a problem. The cigarette ban came in during the lockdown for a few months. After that, and during the ban, we saw a dramatic upsurge in the illicit cigarette trade in South Africa. We at Tax Justice South Africa sent hidden cameras to a number of shopkeepers in Cape Town, Durban, Johannesburg, Pretoria. And out of 40 some odd shops that we went to, all recorded on hidden cameras, only 1 sold cigarettes above the minimum collectible tax at the time of about 21 Rand. The others were selling a packet of 20 cigarettes from anything from 8 Rand to about 20 Rand, which means that they are not paying their taxes, because if the minimum collectible tax is 20 Rand, how much does it cost you to produce a packet of cigarettes? No one can tell me it's going to cost you 25 Rand to produce a packet of cigarettes. unless they're probably putting a lot of junk in those cigarettes. And the illicit trade has grown to such an extent that these criminals are making millions and millions of rands a week because of the illicit trade. Our estimate is that the South African government is probably losing about between 4 and 6 billion rand, if not much more, in taxes alone on cigarettes every month. It's a massive industry. We know, and you probably saw on social media, smuggling of especially the Remington Gold cigarette brand is prevalent from Zimbabwe into South Africa. The SANDF, the police continue to make seizures. They are smuggling it in because they are flocking the market with the illicit cigarette trade. Go to the Joburg CBD, any other CBD, you'll find counterfeit goods are being sold openly. Whether it's a fake Nike, whether it's a fake Adidas, any other brand, you can get it at a fraction of the price. They are robbing our economy. They are stealing from ordinary South Africans. And that is why we have to make it our duty, not only to tell SARS that they have to wake up and get their act together, but we must make sure that we don't support the illicit trade. So don't buy a packet of cigarettes because it's cheap. You're probably buying rubbish in any event, but you are defrauding the South African government, because can you imagine how many vaccines could have been bought with the money that the government could have collected, if it doesn't go into the pockets of these politicians, could have collected if it was done the proper way. We need to fight this corruption scourge. And I've said it before and I will say it again. Corruption is a cancer that we all need to fight. Look at the state capture inquiry, listen to the revelation day after day. We have a serious problem. So whether it's the traffic cop taking a can of cold drink, whether it's somebody else making a quick buck, we need to make sure that we report corruption. And as much as the NPA says it's busy with a whole string of investigations and these people will be brought to book, we need to make sure that it is done with speed. Whether it's a tender fraud, whether it's any other fraud, corruption has become a way of life. I know I said to the organizers, I'm happy to take a few questions or comments if there are any. And I know I've got a few minutes left. So without wasting too much time, Wendy, I'm going to ask if there's any questions or comments. I'm happy to take them. But again, delegates, thank you for the opportunity. Good luck with this conference. Let's join hands and let's fight the scourge.
Thank you so much, Yusuf. I'm going to start with one if I can. Would you join me here? Thank you for that wonderful presentation. Thank you for being one of the South Africans that flies into the face of the storm, who doesn't keep quiet as you're urging us not to. And for pointing out the contradiction of our, many South Africans, most of us that aren't the criminals, bemoan, the scourge of crime, feel very vulnerable and all the rest, and yet many think nothing about inflating or falsifying an insurance claim, for example, or supporting an illicit trade. So there's a contradiction there that we need to grapple with. But I wanted to ask you on a personal level, and first of all, thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for standing up. Do you feel that you put yourself and your family at personal risk? And if so, how do you reconcile that?
I know, thank you, Wendy. I often don't like to talk about my own security, but your question often comes forward to me. I don't want to give the tricks away. Let me tell you now, probably every 6 months I go through about 2 or 3 death threats. I've opened a number of cases with the South African Police Service and absolutely nothing happens. The point I'm making is that we have one of 2 options. We can simply say to the criminals, I'm sorry, I give up, I'm pulling back. Or we can say to them, I'm sorry, thank you for your threat, but F you, I'm ready for you. And I think the choice is yours. Yeah. Now, I don't want to sound that I'm brave or I'm trying to make a difference, but the minute we give in to these criminals and we put up our hands, we might as well pack our bags and leave this country. We cannot be sissies. The fight against criminality is something that is on each and every South African. So when that cop, that man or the good cop or the woman, wakes up in the morning, leaves his or her family, and goes out and protects us, those are the heroes that we need to salute. And yes, people ask me, do you sleep peaceful at night? Mind you, I do sleep peaceful. But let me tell you now, the biggest problem we have in South Africa is a criminal and a criminal scourge. These organized criminal syndicates will stop at nothing to take you out if you're taking not a piece of bread, if you're taking a new BMW or a Merc out of their lives, and they become so desperate. Having said that, let me just leave one point with you. Have you noticed from all the viral videos that we post, when they come and rob you, or when they come and commit a house robbery or a hijacking, do they come in a broken car on a bicycle? Yes, sometimes they do. But they come in fancy German-made cars, they come in fancy clothes, they are well-dressed and well-spoken. Which brings me to the point that a lot of the criminality we are now seeing is not the guy who doesn't know where his next meal is coming from. These people live in lovely estates, they live the life, they are doing it out of greed and not out of poverty. Yes, the guy who snatches your cell phone down the road, or the guy who does a smash and grab, and he goes and quickly sells it for his drug habit or whatever, is a different argument. A large percentage of crime in South Africa, Wendy, is organized crime, and that is our problem.
And as you said, very creative and more desperate, and that
is our worry, yeah.
Okay, do we have any other questions from the audience? No? Okay, yes, thank you very much indeed. Let's do that.
Thank you, Wendy, and again, thank you to the delegates and thank you to the organizers for inviting me. Again, let me just leave you with concluding remarks, Wendy. We have to fight the scourge, and I think we in the media especially have a very important role to play. And I said to Wendy in the passage, Wendy, when is your TV show starting? And I'm punting here publicly, we need to get this awareness going and hold these people to account. Not only the people that are involved in the criminality, but the great work that you are doing where corporates are robbing people because the consumer comes first. And there's some good corporates, but there's some people, I mean, when I listen to your show on radio, and I often think to myself, you know, thank God for Wendy, we hold these people to account. And my appeal to the corporates out there is let's support initiatives like yours, where we hold the consumer to account also, but at the same time, helping the consumer, holding the corporates to account. So keep up the good work, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Yusuf.